Welcome, welcome. Wow, we've got people rolling in.
Wow.
My projected goal of 400 people, I'm not sure if I'm going to meet that, but we're going to get damn close. That's what we're going to do here. I may not get to say hello to all of you as you roll in, but do know that I see you. I appreciate you being here and supporting our 7 phenomenal storytellers. We haven't had a 7x7 in a couple months, so I'm glad to be back doing it. Standard question in the chat. Where are you? You can get creative with that answer. Where is everyone? Where are you? Nah, Chandreyee, I can find you, I think. Or in the moment, we'll know if I was right about that decision, won't we? I am Sean. I'm in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I see Andrea's in New York. Andrew, wait, there's nothing obvious about your background. Houston and Appalachia, West Virginia. So yeah, we got time zones everywhere. Beautiful. Let's do this. Let's play this little game, if we will, as people come in. We will get started with our first storyteller in about 5 minutes. Check out this question. If you have a resolution, share it, please. If it's super personal, all the more reason you want to share it. If you've already failed at it, go ahead and share it. Let's keep it real. We're just keeping things real here. These are true stories that matter. Hey, it's not, you didn't fail, really, did you? You just, how do we frame this politely in 2020? You don't fail, you are succeeding lessness. Yeah, anyway, put it in the chat. We got all our time zones. We're international. I see some people drinking alcohol. Love that. Angela's nodding her head. Yeah. I noticed that there's not a lot of people putting any information in. Oh, we do. We have some. If you're watching us on Facebook Live, thank you for being here, whether you're on Zoom or elsewhere. 7x7 true stories that matter. We've got 7 storytellers sharing true stories that matter. I mean, I kind of nailed the title, I think. I am grateful that they are here and that you are here. If anyone wants to put in the chat what their resolution is and or was, I'd love to see it. And you could put in the chat to everyone if you want to do that. So we can all, hey, Steph. I cannot say or greet everybody with a hello, but I appreciate you all being here. We are going to have 7 stories. We will then have a Q&A or sort of a salon, if you will, afterwards, if you want to hang out for a little bit, if you can, that would be nice. Until then, we're going to keep everybody muted. So the only people that will be unmuted is me when I'm introducing people and our storytellers when they're telling a story. Ideal? No, but it's the best I found for Zoom. Andrea's resolution, and it is to everyone, so I'll say it out loud: greater empathy and compassion. It's a good goal. Erin Rodgers wrote, to do as many things I'm afraid of as possible. I'm glad you're both trying not to bite off too much here. And you keeping it narrow and specific. World peace. No, it's all good. Good. Dream big. I don't know if people's resolutions should be what not to do. You know, you're supposed to frame things about, oh, I want to be healthy. Oh, I want to drink more water. I'm like, I want to drink less alcohol. But I think like a life coach, if there's a life coach out there, let me know. I'm not trying to hire you, but maybe I can can validate this. Or you want to frame it in the positive. Sean, not drink less booze, drink more, I don't know, tomato juice. My thinking is perfect tomato juice and vodka. Great combination, right? Are you with me here? All right, 2 minutes. 7:07 is the magic number to introduce our first sublime storyteller. If you want to put in the chat where you are or your New Year's resolution, I would certainly love to know a little bit more about that, know a little bit more about some of you. This name of the group here that I'm running is called Grit. Some of you know it well, some of you less so. I will put a couple times this evening a link to that group. And in that, the group is where I house most of the stuff. So events, a couple classes we're running, podcast information. So if you have an interest in learning more about them, listening, watching, maybe telling a story, it's all going to be there. If this is a one-off for you, I really appreciate you being here. So it's awesome. Couple little things that you probably know about, but I'm going to remind you, staying muted. We're on Facebook Live. Probably should have told you that earlier. So if you don't want yourself to be seen on Facebook Live, you can stop your video. I'll give you like a minute to figure that out. It's kind of tricky to describe, but 3 little dots, top right corner of your picture, gives you a bunch of options. One of them is to stop your video. I hope you keep it on. I think you all look great. But it's an option if you're a little more private. You also have an option to view our speakers or our tellers in speaker mode or gallery mode. And you can use the chat function to respond to a particular teller or anyone really. If you have some nice things to say to me about me, you could do it directly to me, Sean. Say something like, Sean, man, that lighting makes you look really freaking good. I'd be like, yeah, thanks, man. And we'll keep it personal. I won't even be to everybody. And maybe that'll go back and forth. You'd be like your dimples. And then, I'll be like, thanks. Appreciate that. But you don't have to do that. I just wouldn't suck. All right. Let me let a few more people in. I appreciate you all being here. Some of you I know, some of you I do not. Either way, you're in for a good treat. Thank you for spending part of your Sunday evening. If you were wondering if it's taking you out of this moment at all, the Chiefs beat the Browns. It was a close game. Some people are nodding their heads. Some people aren't so happy about that. Some people don't care. Our second game has not started yet. I'll let you know. Stay here with us. I'll let you know the score. Stay here. Good? Cool? All right. Let me just see the chat real quick. Just want to make sure that nobody's direct messaging me saying, you've got something on your face, fix your hair, things like that. Joanne, thank you for I do have a couple of people that are like directly saying really sweet things to me, which I was asking for, and now it feels awkward. So guess you get what you get. Our first storyteller this evening is a storyteller, obviously. She's a writer. She's a workshop facilitator. I am thrilled that she is joining us this evening. I have known her for several months. She's up to all kinds of cool stuff, and we will hear more about that stuff after her story. Please, big round of applause if you want, or a smile, or whatever you'd like to do to show some love. For our first storyteller was Erin Rodgers. Break a leg, Erin.
Thank you. Okay. I'm 38, and this is not how this is supposed to be going. I've just recently got some new roommates, and by that I mean I have moved in with my elderly parents. My mom wants to know my schedule. She wants to put it in the calendar. My schedule is mostly moving from the living room over to the dining room and back. The dining room is where I sleep on a bed that she has put in there. It is open on all sides. The kitchen is right beside it. So every morning at 6:45, I hear my parents open up all the cupboards all at once and then do the like wonderful like stage whisper of like, do you think she's up yet? Let's make sure we not don't keep her awake or keep her asleep. We've got to be nice and quiet. It is 38. I'm 38, and most of my friends are married or living with a partner, and I have no choice but to move back like a stereotype on a TV show. I am like the like wacky younger brother from Everybody Loves Raymond, except I am the older sibling, and this is not television. A few weeks ago, I was working one of my various freelance jobs. That day it wasn't being a mascot or doing various children's parties. Instead, I was at a store giving away free samples of wine. I carried a giant bag. I was getting on the bus. I got on the bus in the crowded, stinky, freezing cold bus. And I thought through of all the plans I had for the future, how I was going to get it together. And then I stepped out of the bus and my ankle broke. There was a moment of complete silence, the kind of silence that you get when you dive deep into a lake. Except I wasn't deep in a lake, I was crumpled beside a bus near an apartment I didn't own because I was cat sitting. I'm 38 and this is not in the plan. I'm at my parents' house and I'm trying to figure out what to do with my life. I'm trying to sort everything out, but I'm so tired. And anytime anyone calls to like try to be a supportive friend, it's like I'm listening to them through just layers and layers of cotton wool. I spend a lot of time going through the internet and seeing all the ways everyone else is succeeding with their like beautiful partners and their incredibly like well done filters on Instagram, which I still can't figure out. It's very quiet at my parents' house. My family doesn't really talk about anything. I found out my uncle was schizophrenic 6 years ago when my aunt just mentioned it as if it was something I was supposed to know. And then she changed the subject immediately, which meant that I just had to sit there and pretend that my world hadn't been completely blown. That was a weird moment. At my parents' house, it happened constantly. There's constant silence, and then someone will say something and then just leave the room. Mostly what I hear when I'm here sitting in the living room at my parents' house is just the voice that I have been silencing for so long. That voice that I've been trying to keep quiet by keeping busy constantly. For gay men, there's something called The Velvet Rage. It was a book that came out years ago, and it's the idea that you're angry because you're in a world that's not built for you. But I'm like a kind of lesbian, so I don't really have the velvet rage so much as the corduroy discomfort. And so even my voice that is coming to like get me and tell me what to do is not angry and rageful and I can't fight against it. Instead, it is as depressed as I am. It just comes up to me and goes, you know, things could be better. And wanders away wearing the same sweatpants I am currently wearing. All I have, I'm in a side cul-de-sac in the suburbs, so there's nothing to look at and there's no one to talk to. Every day I eat like a ham sandwich that's cut into fours because it is too much energy for me to go over and do it myself. When my mom leaves the house, I look out the window like I'm a golden retriever, just desperate to do something. And every day the like sad, depressed voice gets like sadder and more depressed. And now it's just carrying tissues around, like it's taking tissues out of its little weird depression bra. The voice is getting louder and I can't hear anything. And one day my dad walks in innocently and is like, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? And without realizing it, I start crying. I start spouting out everything, like thousands of dollars worth of therapy onto my poor father, who's just sitting there with his book about World War II, hoping to have a casual conversation. We talk about all kinds of different things. And he says one thing. He says, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was like this. And I'm really proud that you found this place in your life. You found being creative. And it's so simple. It's a simple statement. It shouldn't be so important. But suddenly, like the depression voice she goes away. Well, she doesn't go away. She just gets quieter, and she changes from her bathrobe to her nice sweatpants, and she sits down beside me, and she starts just chilling out and watching Law and Order with me. It's not a life-changing experience. I don't have like a flash of sun. It isn't suddenly that I'm a Disney princess. It's just that I'm not fucking miserable anymore. I have a volume knob on my own sadness, and it is incredible. When I get back home to my house, everything just seems shinier. And I live in Toronto, nothing is shiny. Even the like gross, dirty grit on the ground feels like it has a little bit of a sparkle in it. Now, some days my depression voice, she puts on some extra levels of bathrobe, and there's extra tissues in her bra, but I can still have that volume knob, and that's really important.
Thank you, Erin. How you feeling right now, Erin? You went first. Thank you for going first.
Good.
Good. You should check out the chat. There's a lot of love flowing in your Toronto direction.
Also, I just need everyone to know I was talking about like depression and sweatpants. I'm currently wearing a nice dress.
Right. No.
And sweatpants.
Corduroy discomfort. Can we take that? Can I use that?
Go for it.
Yeah. I'm gonna couple things. And yeah. Well done. Thank you for leading us off so strongly, being so honest and brave. Hey, you know what's the line that really resonated maybe more than any other line with me? I'm wondering what people who heard it, how they feel. It's just that I'm not fucking miserable anymore. Ooh. Are you still with us? You're what? I told you to look at the chat, so you're looking at the chat. You're muted.
Sorry, I have ADHD.
No, it's okay. I was just saying I liked a couple of your lines.
Oh no, I totally heard. The good news is I can do two things at once.
Yeah. Hey, would you share with us about your Twitter event, please? And I'll put something in the chat so people can find it.
Yes, I have a show called Met Through Twitter. Yes. It's happening on Thursday, and every show I always have one person that I only know from online. And so this month I have a comedian who's also a published scientist who's going to talk about his near-death experience. Wow. I also have stories of love. I have stories of an amazing life-changing musical experience. There's a little bit of something for everyone. So I hope to see you all there.
A question. I put that in the chat for everyone. I know that the chat, people put a lot of stuff in, it flies up. I just put it in. You'll see mttstories2.eventbrite.com. Why Twitter?
Because I am, that's where I've met the people that are my, like, I've never met them storyteller.
It's an absolutely perfect name given what you just shared. Met through Twitter. Because that's where you met. Love it. And that's when January, is that next week?
Yes, on Thursday, January 21st.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Erin. All right. I'm going to mute Erin now. Oh, Erin muted herself. I've got him trained over here. All right. Thanks again, Erin. I appreciate you going first and sharing what you did. Next storyteller number 2 has been telling stories like all our storytellers for many years. She's a teacher. She's been teaching for over 30 years. She has been featured on, long story short, I think they're out of California. I'm not sure. Grackle, UCB East, Speak Up. I believe that's with Mr. Dix. And she lives in Brooklyn, and she's a cool woman. And I'm glad she's a friend of mine, like all of our storytellers. I'm going to find her and unmute her, and I hope you all welcome our second storyteller, Ronna Levy. Ronna, unmute.
Am I?
You're good to go, Ronna.
We go. Okay, great. All right. Thank you, Sean. Thank you for having me here. Okay. It's June 2004, And I sit with Lee and I watch the purple chemotherapy concoction drip into his veins. And at night, when the chemotherapy metabolizes, it emits these toxins and the smell is vile. And I just want to gag and I can't sleep and I want to leave the room, but I stay in bed with Lee. Lee is my boyfriend. Lee is the man who for 10 years waited patiently, loving me unconditionally while I was busy running away, afraid to commit, until 5 years ago when I stopped running away and I grew up and I realized that I really wanted to be with the man that I loved. So now it's August and we've had 2 months of the purple chemotherapy and now there are new tumors growing in his groin. Not where I want to see tumors, but so one afternoon after one of his chemo sessions, I'm wheeling Lee past the reception desk. We're going to the elevator and the receptionist asks him if he wants to make his next appointment. And he turns to her and he says, "I'm not coming back." I'm blindsided. How could he do that? What do you mean? So I'm sitting on his porch. I'm smoking cigarettes. I'm drinking Pellegrino. And Noah, his son, his grown son, who lives in Oakland, California, and he keeps flying back and forth. Noah is in the bedroom with Lee, and they're on the phone to the with the Hemlock Society. It's an organization out of Oregon, and they promote compassion and choice and dying with dignity. And Lee has read their book, Final Exit. It's this how-to on self-deliverance, and it's got the laws and the ethics. I refuse to read it. So Noah comes out to the porch, he lights up a cigarette, and he tells me that Lee is relieved, that he knows now that he has control over his life and his death, and he chooses October 13th. And Lee is happy, and Noah's happy, and I'm not. I mean, they just made his death real. I don't want his death to be real. Why did they do that? I mean, I'm thinking, maybe the doctors would have given him a different kind of chemo, or maybe they could have just removed the tumors, or maybe they could have given it, found a pill to manage it, or I don't know, maybe there's a cure. I don't know. Why can't they just wait? I don't know why they have to do this. And then when it does happen, I know we have to call the police. And then the EMTs are going to come in and they're going to have to resuscitate him, or they're going to ask for a DNR and all these other papers. And then they're going to call the police. And then there's going to be an investigation. And then Noah and I are sitting there. We're accomplices and it's a felony in New Jersey and we're going to get arrested. Then I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to lose my job. I don't want to go to jail. I'm going to lose my job, my family. What's everybody going to think? Oh, great. I won't have to vacuum or cook for 2.5 to life. I don't like this plan. But I know that if we have the home hospice, all that has to happen is we call the hospice nurse. She can come over and she can pronounce the death. I have to go teaching in a couple of weeks in September. So Lee says he wants to start preparing now. So I have to drive him around to all of his different doctors because we have to get prescriptions for the pills. The first doctor is his internist. It's Midtown Manhattan. And I drive in there and I'm parked in the street and Lee is in the building talking to the doctor. And I'm sitting in the car and I see the traffic cop and she's walking up the sidewalk and she's giving tickets to people. And I start getting really nervous. I'm sweating and I have money in the meter. What's happening is I start thinking that she knows what's going on and that she's going to come up to the window and she's going to knock and she's going to say something. And I don't know what to do. I don't like this. Lee gets in the car and he tells me that the doctor didn't want to give him the prescription, but he understood and he did. So now we have all these prescriptions and we have to fill them. Well, we can go to the King's Pharmacy around the corner, but we can only go there once. I mean, you can't go there all the time. It'll be too suspicious. So Lee presents me with a stack of MapQuest printouts. And we begin a trek through northern New Jersey. We go to strip malls and shopping centers and towns I've never been in. And there's this one standalone pharmacy. It's got 4 parking spaces in the front. And I pull in, and I mean, and Lee's already looking really gaunt at this point. And he goes in there, and I'm sitting in the car, and I'm just like, I know that pharmacist. He's going to come out, he's going to knock on the window, and he's going to ask what's going on. I mean, this is where my mind goes. So we have all the pills, and we store all the Seconal in the bottom drawer of a bureau in Lee's home office. And then finally, we make arrangements for the home hospice. And the hospice nurse comes over because she wants to meet Lee, and she wants to talk to Noah and me. And we're in the bedroom, and she's sitting in a chair at the foot of the bed. And Noah and I are on the bed with Lee, and Lee tells her his plan. She nods. And October 13th never happens. Because the next afternoon, Lee dies in my arms, peacefully and with his dignity. Thank you.
Damn. Thanks, Ronna. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. That was really powerful. Thank you. Check out the chat. I don't want to keep saying that, but
Okay.
the only way people can communicate with you at this moment, and they're wanting to reach out. So
Thank you for having me.
oh, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Read it.
I wanted to ask you about your slam victory. I am not sure if the timing is right, but I feel like it's the necessary segue.
That's okay.
You just happen to be our 99-second story slam champion, reigning. It won't last forever.
Oh, okay, great, yeah.
You can't be the reigning champion forever because you're not going to be in the next slam. I just want to let people know that you have all kinds of talent, because it's not this kind of story this evening and the 99-second story and purple glasses and lavender frames, all of the above.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you guys want to learn more about the slam, 99 seconds, we got something called the wild card next week. We have a grand slam the week after that. We'll have more and more of them. They're a lot of fun. Shout out to Steph Rodgers, who gave me the idea. I see you, Steph. I hear you, Steph. You got it. But I put a link, and I'll put it a couple more times in the chat. Mute yourselves. I put a link in the chat for more information about the events. Would everyone please mute? Thanks, Kim. You're good. I called her name out. Now she's mortified. I see you, Kim, and your partner. How dare you unmute yourself? No, I'm just playing. It's all good. No one knows what the hell we're doing on Zoom. Don't sweat it. We've got events that are story slams and events like this, and fun, more improv style. We've got something called the Mental Health Happy Hour, which is an open mic. So if you want to hear this stuff or tell stories or learn about it, I'll put the link in the chat. It's fun. I mean, obviously I like this stuff, or I wouldn't be here, but it's really fun. So let us move on. Storyteller number 3. It sounds a little like distant, right? Our next storyteller lives in Brookline, Massachusetts. Now, just to be clear, our last storyteller lives in Brooklyn. This city where she is not the same city. Where our next storyteller lives is in Brookline, in a different state. Writer, obviously a storyteller, a mother, and in her spare time, if I asked you to guess what she does, give you like 10 guesses, don't think you'd get it. Maybe 20 guesses. Most of you wouldn't get it. I should probably let it hang on. Yep. You're wondering, what is it that she does? What does she do? She teaches indoor cycling. How many of you were thinking that? I doubt it. Come on. That's what she does for fun, right? Anyhow, Let me stop talking and formally introduce her. Our third storyteller this evening is Miss Cora Waring. Break the leg, Cora.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So it's a random day 3 summers ago, and I am making dinner when my oldest child comes in and says, "Mom, what's wrong with Chloe's eyes?" Chloe is my youngest child, and she has the best imagination and the sweetest temperament. And I don't know what's wrong with her eyes. So I go over to the table where she's coloring and I watch. And every few seconds, Chloe does this dramatic eye roll, like she is a teenager just throwing sass. But Chloe's only 6. And she doesn't even seem to be aware that her eyes are rolling. She's not even pausing her coloring when it happens. And immediately, as her mom, I assume the worst, that Chloe must have a brain tumor or something because this looks crazy. And so I run and call the pediatrician, who tells me that Chloe probably just has a motor tic, but that I should take her to the emergency room just in case. So off we go to the emergency room, and it's chaotic. And by the time we're seen, Chloe isn't just rolling her eyes. Now she's also working her jaw side to side, and she's moving her tongue in and out of her cheek. And all of these things are happening all together at the same time. So it looks like her face is just performing this odd ballet of expression. And it scares me because I don't know what's happening with my child. But the doctor tells me that it's just motor tics, which are involuntary expressions people make sometimes, and that Chloe's the perfect age for them and that she will probably outgrow them. So what I need to do is take her home and just ignore it. And I don't like that answer, but that's what I do. Over the next few months, the motor tics get worse. Now, in addition to the others, there's a whole body flinch and a blink and a jump. And all of these things are happening all the time, all together. Sometimes I'll go check on Chloe when she's sleeping. And even then, her body is twitching and flinching. And all of this just makes my anxiety skyrocket because I don't want these motor tics to bring any negative attention on my kid. But now when we go out in public, I feel like I should be carrying a giant sign that says, "Nothing to see here, move along," because humans are curious creatures who love to stare at things like car accidents and children with motor tics. And I can't make anyone stop. So a couple more months go by and we are at the pediatrician for one of Chloe's siblings. And when we're there, the pediatrician says to me, "You know, the motor tics Chloe has aren't like the usual ones that kids have. So I think we need to run some more tests to rule out epilepsy and Tourette's." And the minute she says Tourette's, in my head, I am 13 years old, down the street from my house, getting a haircut. You see, even at 13, I was already projecting the same idea of nothing to see here. Don't look at my parents' divorce. Don't look at my messy family. Don't look at my frizzy hair that I'm always trying to fix with haircuts. Just leave me alone. And this is why I'm at the hair salon. And the day I'm at the hair salon, I believe that the man who is cutting my hair has Tourette's. I say this because every few minutes he stops my haircut and goes through a series of motions and then spins in a circle and then starts to cut my hair again. Now, as an adult, I realize that I don't know if this man had Tourette's or motor tics or what, but at 13, I didn't know there was any difference between all those things. All I knew was that the kids at my school talked about Tourette's like it was the worst thing a person could have, to not be in control of your body like that. So every time I go to get my hair cut, I would think to myself, as this man cut my hair, that maybe he had chosen the wrong profession. You know, maybe he shouldn't be wielding scissors around people's heads given his condition. And then I would go home and say this to the various adults in my life, and they would chuckle. And this would make me feel seen, even though I knew it was wrong, that I was making a joke at someone else's expense. So now with Chloe, there are tests and more tests and blood draws, and we are not getting any answers. And the appointment with the neurologist is looming. And I am just getting more and more worked up about it because the world just seems less and less kind to my kid. There's a man who won't let Chloe go on the bouncy slide until she stops rolling her eyes. And there's a teacher at school who always yells at her for jumping in line. And no matter what I do, I can just not chase down all of these people. And my mind is becoming more and more consumed with the idea that if these motor tics are Tourette's, then it's never going to go away. And it's going to be the thing that defines her. And it's going to ruin her self-esteem. And it's going to follow her through life because there are so many jerks out there. And when I was 13, I was one of those jerks. And now it just makes me feel like the universe wants my kid to pay for something that I did long ago. So finally, the day comes for the neurologist appointment, and the doctor walks into the room. And before she even opens her mouth, I just blurt out, "I don't want it to be Tourette's." And the doctor's eyes are really kind, and she puts her hand on my arm and she says, "Before we even get started, I need you to know how many lovely people I know with Tourette's." And just like that, it was like the universe just smacked me across the face and said, "Cora, it was never about you making fun of that man. It was about you only seeing his condition and not seeing him." And all I could think is, oh my God, all these years later, I am still carrying around this stigma of Tourette's, and I don't even really know anything about it. And then I looked at Chloe and I thought, I can do better than this. And she deserves a mother who's better than this. And then I realized that no matter what Chloe had, we were just going to deal with it because we already were dealing with it. And I guess if people were going to talk, then they could talk because Chloe was my kid and I knew how lovely she was, and no diagnosis was going to change that. Thank you.
Cora Waring in her, is it Waring or Waring?
Waring, like the blender.
If you had to choose 3 ideal names that you could have had, would Waring be one of them?
For my last name?
Yeah. Like if you had the choice of the perfect last name, would that make the top 3 list?
No.
Okay.
Well, because people either like think it's Warning, like Cora Waring.
You don't see that there's no N, right?
Yeah, or they say Cora Waring, and I feel like my parents would not have done that to me. Like there's too many OR sounds. No, I would pick something like either super bougie sounding, or I'd pick something super easy like Taylor or Smith.
Right.
I would just pick something, or May. I would take Corey. Is that your last name?
Oh, you would literally swipe Corey's name? Wow. Yeah. He gets that a lot.
Good. Corey May, Cora May. Yeah, close enough.
All right. Okay. Look at that smile you just gave him. Cora, yes. I'm just wondering, lovely story. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Crafting it, putting it together like all our storytellers. Erin and Ronna, who, by the way, Ronna was in like a kick-ass one-woman show. I didn't even ask her about it, but I will. I do want to ask her about that. And so I don't think anybody guessed right. I gave them a moment to think about it, what you do. I don't think it's necessarily your spare time. It's like a part-time job, right?
It is, yes.
And I'm curious how you got into that.
In my spare time, I'm writing about this. I had a lot of health conditions when I was younger. Mm-hmm. So I didn't ever play sports or move around a whole lot. And then when I got older, a lot of those health conditions resolved, and I inadvertently became a cycle instructor. And now here I'm doing it 16 years later.
Right.
Like I can't quit.
Right. So are you the instructor? And this is not just for spin classes, but other type of classes where you're like the out of control, nonstop motivating, over the top instructor?
No,
Is that you?
no,
You know
I
what I'm
don't.
talking about, right?
I
You
don't
know what I'm talking about, right?
I do. I do.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
I've been told that I'm not that person, so I hope it's true. I hope it's true.
Because with a name like Cora Waring, you would think
Yeah.
it would be, but I know it's Waring. All right. Enough of my little tangents. Thank you for joining us and telling your story.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Good job. Let us move along here. Now, our next storyteller, fourth of the evening, is one of my favorite people. He is a good man. He is a tall man with a short name. You can't make this stuff up. He likes baking and eating just enough and thinks ice cream is an underrepresented food group. His words, folks. Don't shoot the messenger here. His day job is technical and boring, but he balances this with regular forays into reading, writing, and talking on television during games of various types. But most importantly, the dude likes story. And he is in Iowa. We think it's Iowa City. It's probably like just outside of Iowa City, in the suburb of Iowa City that has a different name, but he doesn't really want, so it doesn't really matter. He's in Iowa. He's a good man. Please welcome Kory Thomas May.
I'm 39 years old when I confront my dad's killer. It's 2006, and it's a day that has been 28 years in the making. It's time to fight. I remove my clothes, swallow the Vicodin, and slip away. Dad died of cancer of the liver and colon when I was 11. I'm married and have 5 children under the age of 11. Today, I have my first colonoscopy. Most people get their first colonoscopy at 50, but me, I'm special, I'm lucky. I get mine at 39 because I'm at risk. For 28 years, I've lived in fear, and this is real. This is visceral. This is in my gut, like the critter from Aliens, right? So I wait. Let's flash back. It's summer of 1978. I've just turned 11. Mom and Dad call my older sister and me into the living room. They look serious. Dad says, I've got cancer. I might have 2 minutes, 2 days, 2 months, but not multiple years. I don't know what my sister's doing. I know my dad is dying. I react to Dad's news on gut instinct. Fight, flight, or freeze. I'm too little. I can't fight. Part of me freezes emotionally at 11. Mr. Spock helps me cope a little bit. I run toward him, Mr. Spock, right? He's cold, analytical, and safe. I can't feel anything. I can't control anything, but I can understand. I climb up on the couch in the basement and pull the medical encyclopedias down from the top shelf. And I look up the words that I don't know. Cancer, stage 4. Tumor, grapefruit size. Metastasis, it's all over his insides. Terminal. I can't feel anything because if I do, I'm gonna die. And what I couldn't understand was why. 6 months later, He's gone. Dad was 54. He seemed so old to me at 11. I'm 39 and the colonoscopy reports come back. They're clean. Yay, I get to do this again in another 5 years. Nothing happens at 44. I'm at 49. I've had stomach problems. Every twitch, cramp, pinch, or pain worries me. I'm paying attention to what I'm putting into me as well as what's coming out of me. So I had to say, did I inherit this monster? Do I have the alien in my gut? The doctor removes a precancerous polyp. My first. This isn't a milestone I want to celebrate. And a memory rises to the top. One of my dad's best friends, Jake, tells me, I spoke to your dad just after he found out he had cancer. And his only question was, how am I going to tell my kids? Well, how am I going to tell my kids? I'm relating to Dad a little bit more right now. I'm still the 11-year-old who doesn't know how to feel, and Mr. Spock isn't coming through that door. I only tell my oldest two children, 19-year-old Madeline and 20-year-old Xavier. Kids, the doctor removed a precancerous polyp from my colon. Madeline is silent. Xavier looks at me and says, isn't that a good thing, Dad? Yeah, it is. But they don't understand my fear. And I stay strong for their sakes. But the 11-year-old inside me is screaming in fear. And we can't tell anyone. Is that critter inside of us? On May 4th, 2021, I'll be 54, the same age as my dad when he died. And when I look in the mirror, I see his face. Now, my kids have had me longer than I had my dad. And I've kept them at arm's length long enough. It's hard to hug them with all this crap that I'm carrying, and I'm tired and I want to put all this stuff down. I want to be closer to them. I want to be the dad I couldn't have. So kids, as soon as I reach 54, I promise our lives will start all over again. This isn't my finish line. I'm saving money for my two daughters' weddings. I'm gearing up to gain a daughter-in-law. I've got 4 college graduations ahead of me, and I'll be emotionally ready for grandchildren, my little grandbabies. Family dinners and big vacations, all that sort of thing is ahead of us. And maybe, just maybe, it's time for the 11-year-old who couldn't feel to finally heal.
Thank you, Mr. May in Iowa. How you doing, brother?
I'm all right.
Good.
I'm all right.
All right. Saints 13, Bucks 10, if you're wondering. I know you're checking, by the way. I know you're checking. I know you're multitasking and on your phone or somewhere you're checking it out.
I had to check my timer because I didn't want to go over. You're so strict on time, Sean.
No, oh, he's a tyrant. He's a tyrant in Chapel Hill, this guy. Yeah, Saints 13, Bucks 10. It's fine. You know, and more importantly, thanks for sharing that. Crafting it, telling it, like I would say to you or other storytellers this evening. Now, I know you say you're in Iowa City, but where are you actually? What's your address, really?
Oh, for all the ladies out there, that'd be 1006 Oak Crest Street, number 303, Iowa City, Iowa, 52246.
For those of you that could not piece this together, Kory's single.
No, I'm not single. No, I'm just playing now.
Okay, he's just playing.
To everyone, I was just playing.
Okay.
And Cora, you have great taste. We'd have the same number of letters, whether it was Kory and Cora.
Yeah,
It does have a magic ring to it.
yeah, it does. Yeah. Also, just, I mean, be honest. You are single.
As single as you are.
Like, this is about true stories, and it transcends just the story. We keep things real here. I'm single. You single? I'm not asking you out. I just want to know.
No, I'm not.
Oh, you have a partner?
Well, yes. This is a little awkward.
Oh, look at you getting all blushy. I love it.
Weird, Sean.
Now, you may not, no one is allowed to unmute themselves to call me weird. That is the worst. You want to unmute yourself you want to give me the score of the football game? You can unmute yourself. But you're going to unmute yourself and call me weird? Man, all right.
You're not weird. This is weird.
Yep. Well, I mean, you spend a lot of time with Kory. It always gets a little funky. It's just what he does. It's what we do. Hey, let's move on. Great job, Kory. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Sean.
I want to quick break before we get to our fifth storyteller. My friends are on, I believe, are both here, Melissa and Steph. They are pillars. I think that's the right word. I think I got the right word, right? Pillars in the storytelling community, and friends of mine. And they have a huge, awesome, amazing show coming up on Monday, MLK Day. And I want one of them or both of them to take a moment or two, unmute yourself, come on and let us know a little bit about your show, and we'll include a link. Steph or Melissa, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Melissa,
Steph?
got it.
Yeah. Well, working with Stephanie Rodgers is a total delight. So she's amazing. And what we have is an MLK show that will have quite a few storytellers, and a few of them are on here. So we're going to have 3 main storytellers that will be sharing stories that are tied to the I Have a Dream speech. And then we're going to have some mini 99-second stories that represent microaggressions that people of color often have to experience. But the coolest part is Stephanie, because every one of the main storytellers has an original song that her team of musicians wrote for the show. So it is going to be really multifaceted and beautiful and powerful. And with MLK, I think right now it's probably more important than ever after what we've been seeing, in this country. So we hope you will join us.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa and Steph. Link is in there, right?
It looks like someone just stuck it in. Yep.
Yep. I'm gonna do it again just so people get it, because you should go.
Yes, please do.
Absolutely. Unless you have something on Monday night where you just can't go. And I don't really know what that might be. You should go.
Your living room to your couch, you could do that. Yeah.
Now,
and we are raising money for Black-owned businesses too. So
yeah. Now, here's what's interesting. I am not a musician. I don't sing well. I do belly dance. And yet you didn't ask me to belly dance for you. I want to know why I wasn't even considered to be on the docket.
Could you do some spoken word while you're doing it? That might work.
While I'm belly dancing.
Yeah.
I am glad.
And if money is a thing, I wanted to just say, if money is a thing, do reach out to us, because we might be able. We don't want anyone to not go because of money.
Steph just put her email in there, steph@hipchick.com if money is an issue. And Steph is kind of a hip chick, isn't she, Melissa?
She's pretty hip.
They're both pretty hip.
Pretty damn hip.
I don't want to call someone a chick. I know that's not cool, but it's literally her domain.
It's her name. Yeah, it's Hip Chick.
Don't get upset with me for calling someone a chick when her name is Hip Chick.
Well, I was in a rock band called Hip Bone, and we couldn't get Hip Bone because it was taken by a doctor, a hip doctor. So we got hip.com.
For those of you that don't know, this is Steph Rodgers. She's in Chicago.
She's genius.
She's genius. Melissa's in Seattle. Go to the show on Monday. It's going to be great. And thank you both for being here.
Address too. Should I tell everybody my address too, just like Kory did?
Right? Isn't everybody wondering who Kory's dating?
Yes.
Yes.
Even people who don't know him are like, who's he dating? Like, huh, wow, okay, yeah, I want more. But you know what, Kory, you don't tell him. We know what you don't have to tell him. We know in storytelling, among other things, surprise, preserve it, maximize it, wait. Next time, maybe Kory, next time I'll be like, next 7x7 in 4, 5, 6 weeks, Kory May is going to let you know. That's how we're going to get people here, Kory. All right. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Steph.
Thank you.
Let's move on. Kory's muted for a reason. Good. Okay. Our fifth storyteller, I think I have my numbers correct here, is in Chicago. And it has been established that Chicago is maybe the birthplace of story. It is certainly have a lot of talented people there doing things with both improv and story, among other things. She has told stories at Louder Than Mom, Outspoken, Voice Box, which I think was just recent, Story Lab, and something called, wait for it, the Grit Podcast. Grit, True Stories That Matter has a podcast? You got to be kidding me. You do practice? Yeah, no, we have a podcast. Check it out. Her name is Maria Kostas. She is lovely. She's joining us. She's unmuted. I'm going to spotlight her. Please welcome Maria Kostas.
I'm standing next to my car under the L, which is the Chicago elevated train. There's a brand new Honda that pulls up in front of me. A Buick pulls up behind me. There's an older woman dragging a cart coming towards me, and a young kid rides by on a skateboard with a big backpack. It's September of 2020, the month that I'm turning 65 years old. I'm in line with a friend. We're standing next to a storefront with a sign that reads, "Heroes work here." We are at the food pantry. Now, I have it in my profile that I love first-time experiences and I want more and more. So thanks, universe. That's happening. I give myself a deep breath. I've been working around food my entire life, I start to think to myself. Food and beverages and thousands of people. Thousands and thousands of people. People I would have never met had I never worked the jobs that I have. I've been a server, a bartender. I've been a carny. I worked at a culinary school for 13 years. The lunches were to die for. I was on the HR team in a grocery store business. I've been a teacher and a trainer. And I owned my own business for 13 years, supplying staff to special events for catered and private events. From elephant ears to corn dogs, from burgers on paper plates to food on the best china in the world. Serving 14 floors of food was one corporate event. Each floor had a different theme. There were half-nude male models greeting people. There were bars made out of ice sculptures. The vodka came down a slide and was chilled by the time it reached your glass. And we served people who got to eat at the seafood buffet. I thought I would retire with that job. I really loved it, the special events job. But in 2009, due to some circumstances that weren't all my fault, especially the bank dropping my line of credit with no reason to, just like that, I was forced out of business in 2010 at 55 years old. My friends said, "Don't worry, we see you growing. You're in transition." My income dropped 40%. I take a breath. A family joins us. It's a family with some teenage girls. I look at them, and again, another memory pops up. I'll never forget this 12-year-old little girl. I watched her take her entire plate of beef tenderloin and dump it in the garbage. "Is something wrong with your food?" I asked her. I spilled my ginger ale on it. Will you bring me another one? I have served people from all different cities, all different cultures, different economic backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, happy events, sad events. They all showed me how they relate to these events and their relationship with food too. My friend stands next to me, and though we are used to wearing masks, we're not talking. We're just standing here in our own thoughts. It's our turn to go up. I give my ID, I tell them my birth date, my name, and she gives a fake name. I'm surprised, but I say nothing. Later, with our food in the car driving home, I turn and I say, "Really, Sue, her fake name?" She said it was something I used in the past, and that's all she offers. Maybe she feels bad. Maybe she's afraid of what others will think when she finds out she's at the food pantry. She's younger than I am. Maybe she's afraid it'll hurt her career choices, her dating possibilities. And I mean, it can. I mean, people are like that. I mean, years ago, somebody asked how much money someone would have to make in order for them to go on a date with me. I never thought about it like that. I have friends who do. I mean, no judgment. As for careers, it might hurt her career. I mean, I've had to dye my hair for years in order to make sure that I was considered for a job. Oh, I know about the labor laws. I've been in HR. I know we can't discriminate against age, but I've worked with people, thousands of people. It's been 4 months now since I've been going to the food pantry. Most of my friends know, and they see that I'm not afraid, so they're not afraid for me. My friend with the fake name, she called me once and she asked me to pick her up from another food pantry. Pick me up a block away in that parking lot of the convenience store. I guess she still feels bad about it. I want to hug her and I want to tell her that you're growing, you're in transition, everything's going to be okay. I see you growing. But I know she doesn't want me to. I have some friends here, some really good friends. It's a great thing about having grown up in Chicago, 30, 40-year friendships. I have one who's a retired sergeant now, and she's married to a retired judge. They invited me over last night. There were 5 of us, socially distanced dinner. We had bouillabaisse, we drank champagne, we drank wine, we had lobster-filled ravioli with our salad. It was awesome. I felt rich. We told stories to each other. We swapped stories, and they told the rest of us the organizations they're now supporting in their retirement. Food pantries. Are you still going to the food pantry? One of them asks me. I am. That's all right. You're growing. You're in transition. Thanks.
Thank you, Maria. Kostas. Maria, where are you right now? Unmute yourself for a moment. Let us chat. Let us talk for a moment. Where are you?
I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
Where? No, is that your living room? Is that your bedroom?
It's an extra room.
Okay. That
It's
might be, again, room. Just like I did with Kory, people are probably thinking, you made it awkward, Sean, but I don't think so. I like to know where you are. I like to know that you got a little extra space in your home and you made it into that.
I made it into this. I'm turning it into a studio.
Nice. Okay. All right. I never want to compare people's experiences or stories, but I can't help but be reminded of what you shared and some of my own experiences with going to a food pantry not that long ago. And it was hard for me. That's just my own take on it. It was just, is my video up? Yeah. I remember it being very challenging for me. So it's interesting to hear somebody else's experience with it and how it landed with you, you know? So what do you have coming up, if anything, in the world of performance? I know you just did one thing. Anything else on the docket?
March, Outspoken.
What is that?
Karen, Outspoken is for LGBT community. Archie Janjong and David Fink are the curators of the show.
Uh-huh.
And when it was live here, it was run out of Sidetracks Bar. So of course now it will be on Zoom.
Of course it will be.
I think it's the second Tuesday of the month.
And is it and so you're telling a story or is it a performance piece?
Yeah, it's a story,
Mm-hmm.
kind of performance story, 10 minutes.
Nice. You looking forward to it? You got a little bit, like you're smiling. It looks like you're.
I have fun there. It's the best audience in the world. No offense to anyone, but
No, and it's you kind of just best ever. Sorry, y'all. It's not.
All right. I had fun there when I did
No,
that.
it's all good. It's all good. Good audiences are beautiful. So yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for choosing to be here, Maria, and sharing your stuff with us.
Thank you very much. I feel happy to be with everybody.
Thank you. Cool. All right, let us move on. So remember, we've got 2 more stellar storytellers, and then we are going to have a little Q&A or a post-story sharing salon type thing. I'm not French. I'm not going to say salon. I'm not trying to be French here. So yeah, I hope you can stay or join us for that. Our 6th of 7 storytellers this evening. She's in Massachusetts. Now, what you need to know about Massachusetts is that if Chicago isn't the birthplace of story, it may be Massachusetts. We often talk about there being something in the water there because there's just this is storytellers everywhere and they're crushing it. Her name is, she's from Kolkata, India. I know I'm getting the pronunciation wrong and I will probably not get her name right either. But before I introduce her, what I'd like you to know about her is that she is from India, but she grew up in various countries in the Middle East. She's called Boston home for over 20 years. By day, she works to protect the environment as a GIS specialist. Not sure what that is, but I'm going to ask her after her story. And in her free time, she's an aspiring writer, storyteller, and mother to a 14-year-old. I'm sure there's a lot of stories there. I'm going to spotlight her. And then we're going to unmute her, and then she's going to tell us a story. Chandreyee Lahiri. Unmute, and the stage is yours, Miss Lahiri. You're good.
Thank you, Sean.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody. So it was 1985, and my family and I had recently returned to Kolkata, India, after spending about 12 or 13 years in various countries in the Middle East. And we'd moved in with our joint family per Indian tradition. And for us, what that looked like was a 3-bedroom apartment in which was my parents, myself, my brother, my elderly grandmother, my uncle, his wife, and his young son. Now, I was 14 years old and it was one big adventure for me, and I didn't mind initially. But as the months wore on, the inconveniences started to register, and probably the biggest one was the lack of privacy. Now, my uncle was in between jobs at that time, and his marriage was feeling the strain in all the predictable ways. And it wasn't unusual to hear loud, raised voices from their bedroom because we were all crammed together. There were only 3 bedrooms. And that particular night, it was louder than usual. And maybe that's what drew me towards their room. And I paused outside the door to their bedroom, which was ajar. And in Kolkata, you have these in our house, it's these 2 wooden doors. People usually keep them open to let the breeze in. And we have these cotton curtains that hang to give you some semblance of privacy. And I stood outside, but kind of not wanting to open it and intrude, when suddenly it just went shh, quiet. And out of sheer curiosity, I just twitched it apart a little bit to peep in, and I saw my aunt looking at my uncle with a strange expression on her face as my uncle casually lit a cigarette, tossed the matchbox on the bed, and just let out the smoke spirals, just blasé. His part of the argument was obviously over. And then my aunt picked up the matchbox, struck a light, bent down, and set fire to the pleats in her cotton sari, straightened up, and as the whole thing went up in a blaze, she started screaming. And I stood frozen behind that curtain, watching in horror. And out of the corner of my eye, I could see my uncle frozen too. The smoke from his cigarette was spiraling up towards the ceiling, and she just screamed. It felt like hours, but it must have been a few minutes before my brother, who was 18, came barreling into the room, and he wasn't frozen. He had the presence of mind, and he looked around, assessed the situation in a second, and before I knew it, he'd pulled off the flip-flops from his feet, put them on his hands, and he'd started beating out the flames. He was kneeling down on the floor. My aunt kept screaming while she was just standing still as a statue, willing for this thing to happen. And I couldn't believe my eyes as she hauled back and slapped my brother across his face. His face just swung to one side and then it snapped right back. He didn't miss a beat. He kept doing what he had to do, and he kept beating and beating until all the flames had been put out. And then when he stood up, my aunt pulled him into a hug, and the screaming went to howling as she just cried in grief and pain. And outside the door, where nobody saw me, nobody had known that I was even watching, I collapsed on the floor, just shuddering in shock, trying to take it in. I felt so bad. I couldn't understand why this woman whom I loved so much and admired would do such a thing so casually, so easily. She tried to take her life. But more than anything else, I was just full of remorse because I had been extremely mean to her the last few weeks. Now, remember, I was a teenager, and in the hormonal whirlwind that was my life, I was up to my eyes with the melodrama, and I'd been rolling my ass at her constantly, at her sighs, at her complaints, at the sad look that she always wore. I didn't see it for the depression that it really was. And I just sat there chastising myself and ripping off all these labels that I'd stuck on her: drama queen, self-pity. I ripped them all off in my head and promised that I'd be more sensitive. Now, life moved on. She came out of it okay. My aunt is in a really good place now. And strangely enough, I never gave much thought to this episode and all the years that came after, until about 12 years ago, when my own life hit a bit of a rough patch. My son was 2 years old, and I was having a really hard time of it. I was sleep deprived. I was exhausted because he still hadn't learned to sleep through the night. And to be honest, I was really struggling with all the balls that I had juggling. I was a working parent. I didn't have family and support because they were all in India and we were in the US. And I'll be honest, my marriage was a little bit strained, the way all marriages are when you just have so much, when you're carrying so much weight. That particular day had been awful. It was yet another awful day at work. I was in physical pain from exhaustion. I'd had words with my husband and I was in tears as I was driving, like racing against time, like I always was in those days, trying to pick my son up from daycare in time. And I was pulling up to this traffic light and I could barely see through the tears because I was crying. God knows why. I was always crying those days. And I found my brain go into this really weird space where I did this bizarre checklist. 1, was my husband traveling for work this week? No, he was in town. 2, did daycare have his number in case of emergency? Yeah, they did. They'd call him. 3, wouldn't everyone's life be better if I wasn't in it? Oh, yeah. And before I knew it, the light had turned red and I'd squeezed my eyes shut and I had stepped on the gas. And a few seconds later, I opened my eyes because I made it through that intersection intact. My pain was also intact. And in that weird adrenaline high I was, all I could see was endless pain and despair stretching out ahead of me, as well as a second traffic light. And that was also red. And my checklist was already done. So I did it again. I stepped on the gas and I went through the light and I came out unscathed again. Now all that was looming ahead of me was the daycare. And I turned into the parking lot. I turned off the engine of my car and I slumped against the steering wheel and started shuddering for breath at what I had just tried to do. And the first rush of thoughts in my brain were the obvious ones that you think of, you know, what was that? What if I had died? What if I hadn't died and I was stuck in a hospital bed for the rest of my life? What if someone else had been hurt because of what I tried to do? But more than everything else, in a complete bizarre twist, I flashed back to Kolkata in 1985 and my aunt and that sari that's up in fire. And all of a sudden, the jigsaw pieces of a puzzle that I didn't know was incomplete clicked into place. She wasn't just depressed, and she wasn't just stressed. She was juggling too many balls just the way I was. Sometimes people can get stretched so thin that the smallest gust of wind can snap that thread. They don't do it on purpose. It's not always planned, and it just happens. I drove out of that parking lot later that day, very, very carefully, because I was now carrying precious cargo. In the back, my son was strapped into his 5-point harness of the baby seat, and he was kicking his chubby legs and singing his favorite song from his favorite show, Thomas the Tank Engine. And I took a deep, steadying breath as I approached the first of 2 streetlights between the daycare and our house. The light had just turned green. Thank you.
And she breathes. Great job. Thank you, Chandreyee. You all right?
Yeah, thank you. My son's right there, and he's watching. First time he's very. Thank you.
Was that planned? Okay. You all right?
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
This was not easy. Thank you so much for this platform to be able to tell these stories. They're not easy to tell.
No, they're not. Yeah.
All good.
Yeah, no, take a few moments. I mean, take us not a few moments. I appreciate that you were willing to tell that to people that you don't even know everyone here.
Almost
Not like-
everyone. Yeah.
You know some of them, but not a lot of them, right? And so I think telling a story to strangers, and I use that term loosely, but that's not the same as telling it to your friends. So
I have to be honest, a lot of my peeps have shown up in the audience and
good.
got me the way I know a lot of people here have got me. And anyway, I'll let you talk, but it's in the scheme of things, it's so easy to compare your pains and end up feeling like a heel because, oh my goodness, in the face of all the problems, the story Maria told, the story Ronna told, what was that? It was nothing, but I think I need to resist the temptation of always comparing. It's all relative, and and I think we need to talk. Sunlight is the best disinfectant.
For sure. Yeah. I know. I'm pretty sure they'd rather hear you talk than me talk. So feel free to keep talking. Yeah. I don't have much to say other than thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Are you, Chandreyee, let me spot you for 1 sec. I didn't share this in your introduction. I wanted to ask you, I'm not sure if this moment is the right moment, about your blog, Silver Linings. Do you want to share about that, or you want to wait to do that another time?
Oh, no, sure. It's a blog that's been dead for a while, but
I didn't know that.
No, I strongly believe in the small moments, like in my more pedantic philosophical wannabe moment. I like to say that life is lived in between the moments or something like that. But my blog was actually, it started right around the time that I'm talking about, where I was really having a hard time seeing beyond just despair. And actually, this is exactly the right time to talk about this, Sean, is I started doing this thing where every day I would write a blog that had 3 silver linings. And if you go back all the way to the very first post, it actually started with my friend Anu, who I think a lot of you know. And we started it. She used to live in Massachusetts then,
Yep.
and her idea. And because I was going through such a hard time, I would try and find 3 good things about the day. And even if it was as simple as, I really like the taste of my coffee, or I am wearing red shoes and that rocks, just to tell myself that nothing is always dark. And it went on to, I had a kid, and documenting him, documenting the little things that we saw that happened to us every day. And unless you bottle it up, you don't know how good that moment is or how good your life is. You just look at the bad. So yeah, I highly recommend it. It's a great way of turning things around.
Cool. I put a little link. I don't, dead or not, I put a link in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
It's alive. It's not dead.
Zombie.
Yes. It's amazing what happens online, right? In the interweb. Thank you for sharing that story. Yeah.
Thanks,
I'm not sure if this is the right time to talk about this, but I put a lot of work into, in addition to some of the grit stuff, the story stuff, I also have another podcast called Suicide Noted. And I interview people who have attempted suicide. Obviously, I've lived to talk about it. So I've shared that because it's not some sort of self-promotion as much as if you are here this evening or you know somebody who has attempted suicide, I'd really like to talk to them. And if you want to get a sense of the energy of the show, or because I know I'm a goofball here a lot and I say silly things, it's just one hat I wear. So listen, it's called Suicide Noted. And even if it stops at you just listening to one episode and it makes you feel a little bit less alone, that's why I want to let you know about it. So check it out. If you're familiar with podcasts, put a little search into Spotify or Apple or anywhere else, it'll come up. And just reach out to me if you have any questions about it. I'm glad to share more. So, yeah.
John, could I quickly do a couple of plugs?
Yeah, for sure. Please. Yep.
One is Rise Up. Stephanie was just reminding me.
Oh, you're a part of that, right? You're doing something with them.
Just a little story in that. But the other one is I'm part of Pessim Streams Producers tomorrow night, which unfortunately clashes at the same time as Rise Up. It's a show that Tell and Act produces with Cheryl Hamilton.
Yeah.
A show about producers. And I'll put the link in here if that's okay.
Sure.
But that leads me to the other thing I'd love to talk about is I'm part of a theater organization, and we have a show called Voices, which is themed specifically on South Asian immigrant stories. People in the audience today have been tellers on the show, and we try to bring stories about being an immigrant from specifically South Asia. And we have a show every other year, but we are about to start our own slam series this year. And the first of two will be virtual. And it's specifically themed on stories about South Asia, because we would love to get our stories out there.
Yeah.
So if you have a story, you don't have to be from South Asia, but if you have a story about South Asian immigration, bring it to me and we will see if we can get you into the slam and pick your name from a hat and we'll go from there.
Awesome. That's really interesting. Okay. So they can follow up with you. Put a link in there. I know there's a lot of links rolling through the chat, but presumably some will resonate. You want to learn more, some maybe not, but put it in there, Chandreyee. Every time someone says something like that, like, oh, it's a slam, I'm like, I want to do it. And then I think, I don't know, for that particular slam, I'm not sure this dude has anything, but I'm gonna search for something that I might, but no doubt some people here might. Yeah. We're not even talking about your hair tonight either. We're not even going there, but it's worth noting that you have great hair and it matches your glasses this evening.
My hair is blue. I am not. That is the important thing.
There's a few people here who will know what I'm talking about when I say I just learned an alternative meaning to blue. I didn't know this. I always connected blue with sadness. Apparently it also means dirty, violent, sexual. Did you know that? Richard Munchkin's here. He knows what I'm talking about. Anyhow, nonetheless, there's this new meaning. I'm learning new things here this evening. Chandreyee, put your information or the link in the chat. And when I say Chandreyee, how close am I to getting it right?
Pretty darn close. The Bengali pronunciation, I'm from Calcutta, Kolkata, which is in West Bengal. In Bengal, it would be Chandreyee.
Chandreyee.
I can't even always manage that in America, so I'm just Chandreyee or Chandreyee. So
I can do better than that.
You're doing fine. Don't worry.
Aditya has been helping me, so blame him if I'm not 100% accurate. All right, thanks, Chandreyee. Appreciate it. All right, so look for that information in the chat. Our final storyteller this evening. By the way, Chandreyee mentioned something about Tell and Act. Tell and Act is an organization that, don't quote me on this, but they are intimately involved with stories from the stage. I know there's been some changes with that organization. Our final storyteller this evening is not the only one, but is one of our storytellers this evening who has been on Stories from the Stage. Cheryl Hamilton is involved with that, with Tell and Act. There's a few of you that have been there on that, and he has as well. Yep. He is a university professor. He enjoys skydiving, which I have some questions about that. I'll wait to ask them. And he likes dog sledding. And if I, again, like I did with Cora Waring, if I asked you the final thing that he likes doing and gave you 25 guesses, you wouldn't get it. I don't think. I'm not going to do that because that would make for terrible TV. It's knitting. Nothing wrong with it. Love it. Just, I don't think you'd have gotten that. He's told stories on, as I've mentioned, Stories from the Stage and Risk, among other places. He's joining us. He's from Massachusetts. He's joining us from Texas. He's a good man. He also has great glasses. Please welcome Harold Cox.
Hi, everybody. So I'm not embarrassed to tell you this at this time in my life. I love Santa Claus. I love everything about Santa Claus. I love the way that he looks. I love the way that he acts and kind of how he is with people. I love the way that people are with him and the way that people respond to him. I love everything about Santa Claus. But I have to admit that I was very, very nervous and very tenuous when I was asked to be Santa Claus at the holiday party that we put on for about 200 kids at my workplace. I'm no Santa Claus. I'm not nearly as good as he is. But I was the only person that could fit in the suit, so I got to be Santa Claus. Now, on the night of the program, I put the suit on. Now, you should know, the suit is magical. Once you put the suit on, you actually become Santa Claus. Here's just one small example. Before I put the suit on, I did all the practicing. I was doing the ho, ho, ho things. But I must tell you, it was sounding really creepy. I'm not going to try to show you right now, but it was really creepy. But the moment that I put the suit on, it was absolutely perfect. I was Santa Claus. And I knew this because when I went out into the room where all the kids were, what I heard was a roar of 200 kids screaming, Santa, 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 Santa. The kids knew that Santa was in the room. There was this little boy. He was about, I don't know, maybe like 5 years old. He came running up to me. He and about 2 or 3 of his other friends, they were grabbing on my clothes. Hey, Santa, hey, Santa. And they followed me around the room the whole time that I was there. I knew this was going to be a good thing because my peeps were here. And what I knew is that this little group, my little entourage, were actually Santa groupies. This is really good. I knew I was in the right place. I had the suit on. I was Santa. Everything was going to be great. At least until a mom came and she put her, I think he was about 2 years old. She put him in my arms. He looked at me and then he looked at his mom and then he looked back at me. And I have never heard anybody scream so loud in my whole life. I was so glad to give him back to his mom. Now, he is what's known as a Santa hater. Can't stand the guy. I was glad to give him back. I walked around the room. I did a little bit more ho-ho-hoing. I had my little bell. I was doing my thing. And then kind of over in the corner, I could see that there were a group of kids. They were about 8 or 9 years old, and they were having a very animated conversation. I didn't know what was going on, but I just watched them and just continued around the room talking to some of the other kids. And then I noticed at one point that they pushed one of their little members out of the room. She came over to where I was, stood in front of me, and she started at my head as she was going all the way down. She was at, looked at my head, then she looked around my shoulders, looked around my belt, looked around my knees, And then she got to my shoes and she said, no, no way. Those are brown shoes. Those are not Santa shoes. So I thought, okay, I've got to do something here. And not to be outdone by an 8-year-old, what I said was, look, these are the shoes that Mrs. Claus gave me. When I left the North Pole this morning, Miss Claus said, Santa, your shoes are disgusting. You cannot go away from here looking like that. You better put these on. And I said, you got to do what Miss Claus says. You know that. And the little girl said, yeah, I guess that's true. And then she went back over into the corner with the other kids. They started talking among themselves. And then for the next 25, almost maybe 30 minutes, kid after kid came over to talk to me. And they each had something that they wanted to say about my hat, about my gloves, about my belt, about my reindeer, about every aspect of me being Santa Claus. Because see, they are actually the Santa police. They got to make certain that everything is right. They're not even quite sure that Santa actually exists, but if he does, everything has to be right. I had answers for them. Everything was all right. I'm doing okay until he came over. He just came over and he stood in front of me. I could tell he was a ringleader. I knew this about him. I did a little bit of ho-ho-hoing. He didn't move. I rang my bell. He didn't move. He just stared at me. And then he said, very matter-of-factly, there ain't no black Santa. Okay, this one I had to kind of take in because the truth is, when I was his age, I never saw a black Santa either. But I am black and I am Santa. So I said to him, you know, Santa comes in all shapes and sizes. Santa comes in all races. Today I'm black, but tomorrow I might be something else. Santa can change any time that he wants. Now, there was a little girl that was listening because they were all listening. And this little girl chimed in, well, go ahead and change. Well, not to be outdone by an 8-year-old again, what I said was, look, you don't change your clothes in public. Santa doesn't change his race in public. They all ran into the corner and they were talking among themselves. And I thought, I better get out of here before they ask me something that I really can't answer. And I had been talking for a while and I thought, well, I'm just going to go over and sit down. I did. I went and sat in the chair. But Santa Claus sitting in the chair is actually an invitation for kids to come and talk to him. So 200 kids lined up to come and talk to me. And one at a time, they sat on my lap and they had lots of things to say. One kid wanted to tell me about the toys that he wanted. Another kid wanted to tell me about what was going on in his school. Still another kid wanted to tell me that his father didn't have a job and that what he really wanted this year was a job for his father. Kids understood the power of the suit. They understood that Santa Claus was actually in the house at that moment. And then it was time to leave. Bye, Santa. Bye, Santa. Don't forget me. Don't forget me, Santa. And when I got in the back room, I was thinking as I was pulling the suit off, you know, Santa's got a good thing going. I really like Santa and I want to continue to be Santa. And then I thought, you know what? You don't really need a Santa Claus suit to act like Santa. But it is true that a big red suit really helps.
And there it is. Thanks, Harold. Man, love these stories. Thanks, Harold. If there was a title to that story, Harold, I'm not saying you need a title. Don't need titles. if there were a title, what would that title be? Put me on
Oh
the spot.
my. I've never thought about a title for that story.
Yeah, no, I'm not a big fan, but like, let's just play with that. What do you think?
Here Comes Santa.
Nice. While you're telling that story, man, it's so great. I'm just imagining you with that suit on, whatever other things I loved it. Great. Awesome. Why are you in Texas, by the way? You're not in Massachusetts, which is the arguably the second birthplace of storytellers, but you're not there.
No.
Why are you there?
I'm here in Houston. My mother has COVID, and she is receiving hospice care right now. So I'm here managing my family and being with my family. My mother's resting very comfortably right now, and but I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here with other family members.
I'm glad, and I think everyone else is glad that you're here too. So thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank you.
it. Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for your story. Thanks for your patience. 7 storytellers, another 7 by 7. Check out the chat, by the way. I know I've said that a few times, but that's one way people have been showing love. The only other thing I have to say, other than thanking our storytellers and thanking everybody who came here this evening, actually, that's really all I have to say. I'm going to put in the chat. If anybody knows me, they know that I'm really awful about, hey, here's how you can help us out, pay money. Not my thing. I'm going to put that in there. If you want to contribute, we have some operating expenses with the podcasts and stuff like that. So if you want to offer a few bucks, I'm going to put that link in there. I'm really wanting to always just offer this for people for just to, I don't know. I have an issue with money. So just know that I always want to be able to offer this gratis, if I'm using that term correctly. So yeah. The other thing I noticed, in addition to our 7 storytellers and all their lovely, beautiful stories, was that 5 of them have glasses. Did you guys notice that? Erin? Did you guys notice that? Erin doesn't have glasses. And somebody who else doesn't have glasses. Let me find out here. Yeah, Erin and Cora don't have glasses. Everyone else has glasses. But I've noticed is that the glasses that you have are all stylish. Now, I'm not choosing storytellers because they have stylish glasses, but it's interesting that all of you, and when I say all of you, I mean, I want to say your names. Ronna, Kory, Maria, Chandreyee, and Harold all have pretty rad glasses. So that's pretty cool. And you also know that I have a big thing with teeth. I also noticed that all of our storytellers have really nice teeth. But now we're getting into a place where people are going to be like, dude, you're getting weird. So I'm just going to cut it. We're done. Thank you to our storytellers. Thank you to our audience. Next week, we have a 99-second wild card, which means if you want to tell a 99-second story, join us. Reach out to me. I'll give you more information. A lot of people here have been part of it. They know how fun it is. So let me know. There's plenty of spots available for next week. So let me know. And then if you want to just follow us or join the group on Facebook, you can know about the events, the classes, and everything else. So I'm going to say goodbye. Thank our storytellers. Thank everyone for showing up. And feel free to unmute yourself and say hey. And it's a little bit of a free-for-all. And that's that. That's a wrap. Thanks again, y'all. Appreciate it.